Hey guys, what is up? Unrested back again, and today I'm covering kind of an odd one, something I wouldn't normally cover, but a game developer in Japan here being arrested. Yuji Naka, the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, has been arrested for insider trading. Now, some of you might be a little bit confused. What is insider trading? I'm going to try and break it down into the most simplistic form possible because for me too, I'm not great about understanding the trading market and stuff like that. Pretty much it's when you have secret knowledge of something a company's about to do and you use that to act on the stocks connected to the company. So if you buy a bunch of shares of a company because you know they're going to put out an amazing product pretty soon, that's insider information, as in you're inside the company right now hearing about what's about to happen, so you cheated the market by buying ahead of time. So like imagine Bethesda never tells us when they're going to put out the new Elder Scrolls game, but you're working there and you find out, oh, it's coming out tomorrow? Okay, this week I'm going to buy myself a bunch of Bethesda stock. And when the game comes out, of course, your stock's going to blow up because everybody's going to be buying that new game ASAP. That's insider trading. You can't do that. I've never played the stock market. I don't know a lot about it, so I think my expertise stops there. And that was pretty much me reciting the information I looked up for a definition. So what happened in this case was Yuji Naka was working for Square Enix at the time. And I didn't know this, but apparently he was working on Balan Wonderworld. If you don't know, that game bombed really bad. If I were to try to explain the game in the simplest term possible, it was a platformer that involved hats and costumes. You pretty much switch out your hat and costume to get different abilities as you do these different platformings. Most of the abilities hadn't been fully created. A lot of the game was unfinished. The abilities you did get seemed to be pretty useless and didn't really enhance the game in any way. It just kind of turned out to be a pretty stale platformer to begin with. So imagine a less difficult and less fun version of Cuphead. That's kind of what they made Balan Wonderworld into. And it bombed, it did really bad. So he lost a ton of money. But while he was working at Square Enix and helping with Balan Wonderworld, he heard about a new game coming out called Dragon Quest Tact. And I don't know if that game is in America, but it is a tactics game for Dragon Quest. If you don't know, Dragon Quest is a very well-known RPG series that started way back in the day. I mean, it was one of the first RPGs I ever played back when it was called Dragon Warrior on the NES. It has had multiple mobile releases. There's a Dragon Quest Pokemon Go type game where you can collect the monsters from Dragon Quest here in Japan. I believe that is solely Japan. The other game it has is a RPG version where you just have 3 characters and you kind of march them around and collect stuff for them, which is kind of a gacha game. And then the newest one that he heard about was Dragon Quest Tact, which might as well just be called Tactics. It's the same as like Fire Emblem or Ogre Tactics. If you don't know how a game like that works, it's kind of got some RPG elements, but mostly you have a selected team that battles against other teams. I don't know. It's not really my type of thing. Fire Emblem was okay, but I always feel like the Dragon Quest games recently are not as polished when it comes to their story anymore. Like they used to be really simple, down-to-earth fantasy stories, and then eventually it just got into like all this very cutesy stuff that was just too cutesy for me, and I really couldn't get that into it anymore. So he heard about this mobile game being made. No, he did not help work on it at all, but I guess he must have heard it while he was working there, and the company helping to make that with Square Enix was a company called Aiming. He took out over 10,000 shares in stocks, which would be something like 4 million yen or $336,000 in American dollars, roughly. Doing the exchange in my head, I may be totally off on that. Don't quote me on that, but it's a lot. 10,000 shares is not cheap. And because he did this, Japan has almost all the same laws and has its own version of the NASDAQ called the JASDEC. And when their version of the FCA, I think it's called the FFA, came out and found he had done this, him and 2 other people working with him at Square Enix were arrested. Now, as far as what he's going to do, is he going to jail? Probably not going to jail. Probably going to have to pay a massive amount of money. I don't think there's any way he can get out of this, because there's a pretty secured paper trail that he made these purchases. I don't think there's much else he can do to deny that this happened. Reading some of the things people are saying on Twitter, his fans seem very disappointed. Like, they cannot believe the creator of Sonic would sink so far. The crazy thing is, the recent game, Sonic Frontiers, did really well. I don't know if he's still getting royalties or if he's still making money, but I would think since he created the IP, he's still getting some ounce of cash from that. So I'm kind of surprised. Maybe he thought Sonic Frontiers was going to do as bad as Sonic 2006. I'm not totally sure, but he really put himself in quite a pickle, and I think it's a combination of, number one, overhearing a conversation you weren't supposed to partake in, and number two, kind of putting together a pretty crap game, Balan Wonderworld. It kind of feels like, I don't know if his team was being lazy, or they bit off more than they could chew, or they weren't reading the market. I don't think it's lazy, because some of the artwork is pretty amazing for that game, but I think they misled their audience as to what the game was going to be. Because the way, if you look at the original trailers and descriptions for it, it talks about how, like, there's all these costumes and all these different things you can do. And from what I've heard, it's like a couple different costumes, and almost every move you do is the same. So the game bombed like so bad that, go back and listen to worst games of 2021, and it's almost on every single list. And that's when you know a game really bombed. Anyway, guys, I just thought I'd update you on that one. A lot of people asking about why he was arrested. It's insider trading. That's what he's being charged with. It looks like he is going to have to pay some fines for that, and there's a lot of disappointed fans out there. Not much more to say on it. Until next time, have a great rest of the day. I've been Unrested.